question standing in my name on the order paper.
My Lords, we are aware of recent media reporting on a petition on Papuan independence. We have not received any copy. The relevant UN bodies have also informed us that the petition has not been formally submitted to them. We, of course, will continue to follow the situation in Papua with great interest.
I thank the Minister for his answer. But would we not agree that this petition was truly remarkable? It was signed by 1,804,421 people inside the country, 95.7% being indigenous West Papuans and 4.33% Indonesian trans migrants. The 1,708,167 estimated signatures by indigenous West Papuans represents 70.88% of the population. Is not this truly remarkable? And is it not a startling contrast to what happened in 1969, when after the occupation of West Papua, Indonesia handpicked only 1,026 people and forced them at gunpoint to declare support for Indonesian rule?
My Lord, the Noble Lord, of course, is referring to the media reporting on the petition, and indeed, as he's presented the facts, as has also been reported in the media. However, I did, on receipt of this question, also check with our own mission in New York at the United Nations, and we certainly haven't ourselves received a copy of the petition. And furthermore, checking with the UN Secretariat, they themselves have not received such a petition. In terms of the situation in Papua, particularly West Papua, of course, the Noble Lord speaks with great experience in this regard, and I know of his interest. We continue from a United Kingdom's perspective to ensure that all rights, and indeed those also of media reporting, are upheld. And we are encouraged recently by the steps that the President of Indonesia has taken in granting increased clearance for journalists to report from that particular region.
My Lord, the question also raises it.
This year, his predecessor, the Noble Baroness Annerly, shared the concerns by the Noble Lord about human rights abuses. And one thing is clear, they are continuing, and the government is monitoring them. Will the Minister, the Noble Lord the Minister, take this matter up and the UN and support the request for a special representative to investigate these continued abuses of human rights?
With regards to the United Kingdom's presence, indeed, our ambassador is actually visiting the particular region, and as the Noble Lord is aware, again, he refers to previous exchanges in your Lordship's house. Of course, we remain concerned about the reports of abuses within that and the human rights situation on the ground, and we continue to make our representations clear in international fora, but also, I can assure the Noble Lord, in direct representations at bilateral level, at the highest level, to the Indonesian government themselves.
My Lords, if I may follow up that particular question, the matter of human rights abuses was actually investigated, are being investigated by the government of Indonesia. And they're particularly looking at the accountability when security forces open fire on a peaceful demonstration. May I ask the Minister if he can get in touch with his counterpart in the Indonesian government to see how far this investigation has advanced and what action could be taken against those who perpetrated such serious crimes. And while on the matter of independence for West Papua, if the government has raised the matter with the UN General Assembly to identify what other routes West Papuan can take to democratically address the matter of independence in accordance with international law.
Well, first of all, just in terms of the issue of West Papua, I think it's important for record to say that the United Kingdom retains its position of supporting the integrity of Indonesia. In terms of the situation the Noble Lord raises, of course, I will follow up with my opposite number in the Indonesian government to get an update on the situation. But let me be also clear that we are, of course, cognizant of the situation on the ground, and that is why our ambassador himself has visited the region a number of times, and also to draw to the House's attention when the Universal Periodical Review took place earlier this year, we also raised issues of human rights. That was, of course, with specific reference to journalists that weren't being allowed to report freely from the region.
Would the noble Lord the Minister, my Lords, would the noble Lord the Minister accept that I had an interest in this because I advised BP on its gas deposit in West Papua and visited there regularly for 7 years. But could the noble Lord say whether journalists, both Indonesian and international journalists, now have free access to West Papua and have the ability to shine some light on these accusations of human rights abuses? And if not, will we continue to press the Indonesian government to give that right of access?
And the noble Lord speaks with great experience of the region and indeed of the country. I can assure him that, as I alluded earlier to a response I gave on this question, that President Jacobi has lifted and granted much more open rights and equalisation of rights to access to West Papua in terms of reporting by journalists. Of course, the situation continues to be monitored on the ground, and in answer to his question directly, it's certainly our reporting, and that is why we raised this at the UPR, that free access that certainly the President has committed to is not translating itself on the ground, and we will continue, I assure the noble Lord, indeed your Lordship's House, more generally, that we will continue to raise the issues not just of the freedoms of journalists within the region, but all issues of human rights in West Papua.
My Lords, Indonesia being the 4th largest country in the world by population and by far the largest in ASEAN, the trend towards a degree of autocracy in ASEAN is worrying. Has the government had discussions with our friends in Australia about how their experience of being a very close neighbour suggests that we in Europe can be of more assistance in getting the balance right in Indonesia, as they are friends, between human rights and all the economic development and religious and other questions that face a very complicated country like Indonesia?
I think there's many parts of the world, including our own, where the challenges and complications of any population are something that are of priority for any government. But let's not forget, Indonesia is, first and foremost, it is a democracy. And the current president who was elected on a mandate of pluralism. Indeed, we welcomed his election, and certainly from his statements and the actions he's taken, we are encouraged by what has been done centrally. There are, of course, worrying issues on human rights. We can talk in terms of the journalist fraternity. We can talk in terms of minority rights and minority religious rights in Indonesia. Those remain of deep concern to Her Majesty's government, and we continue to raise those bilaterally and indeed international fora as appropriate.
Lord Luce. Beg leave to ask a question standing in my name on the order.
My Lords, we urge the de-escalation of tensions in the Middle East. The Foreign